Devil May Cry 5 has kind of been the underrated gift that keeps on giving. Ever since I got it in late 2019, it's just been a game that I would definitely consider one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had ever with video games, but at the same time, it's not really something that I talk about or point at when I talk about the greatest games of all time. So today I want to change that. Today I want to appreciate an aspect of Devil May Cry 5 that a lot of people don't really talk about, overlook, or just don't even notice in the first place. Now I'm sure you heard anyone that talks about Devil May Cry 5 or any Devil May Cry that isn't 2 or 4. Well, even 4 gets a lot of love for its combat mechanics. Devil May Cry, first and foremost, is an action game, and it's a pretty goddamn good one. Games like God of War essentially owe all of their success to the formulas, patterns, and structures set by the Devil May Cry series. The gameplay differentiates itself from other action games by not just encouraging you to kill your enemies, but to style on them, to taunt these guys, to toy with them, and it rewards you for doing so. You have these style-based meters that rate how many enemies are you killing in a short amount of time, how many different strategies are you utilizing, and when are you planning your taunts, and do you get to play them all out? How are you dodging? It's all accumulated into these different little rankings that appear on the top right-hand corner that let you know just how good that you're doing, not just if you are surviving or prevailing against a challenge. You see, in Devil May Cry, you play as the strongest character in the arena. The game knows this, and it makes sure that you know it. So the challenge doesn't come in from surviving, although don't get me wrong, these games can be pretty tough, and to new players, surviving can definitely be the way of the world in the first playthrough. But the challenge comes later on when you're replaying these missions and just trying to do much better than last time, get that higher ranking. In a sense, for people that usually watch my channel and play a lot of Metal Gear, it's very similar to Metal Gear's VR missions, in the sense that you can beat a VR mission, but the true victory lies in getting the top score, the top time, and all of those different stats. It's a statistic-based combat game. Something that makes these games very fun, easy to approach, and even more fun to come back to is the fact that you don't just have a character that has multiple different weapons with multiple different strategies and multiple different ways that you can use said strategies, but it also has multiple characters. So even if I get really good playing as Dante, I learn all of his weapons, I learn all of his movesets, and I master each one of those different combos, and I combine different combos together to make up some of my own, I can go and I can start playing as Nero, V, Virgil, or many of the other characters in the series that have just as many options. Well, maybe Dante has more than others because he's been around the longest, but there's still a lot of characters there and there's still a lot of depth to each and every one. None of them feel half-baked. Nothing ever feels the same. There's variety in a game that encourages variety, and who guessed it, that works out quite nicely. But you already know about this. Odds are you already know that Devil May Cry plays really well and it's insanely fun. It's a wacky adventure full of, demons and badasses and all this stuff. But what if I told you that Devil May Cry 5 is a cinematic masterpiece, on par with The Last of Us or 2018's God of War? A lot of people had a little bit of a discussion when this game first released, saying that, Devil May Cry 5 is a breath of fresh air because it doesn't take itself too seriously and doesn't need to do all the dramatic filmography and cinematic work of games like Last of Us and God of War. Because for a while there, gaming entered an unhealthy state in which if it's not copying movies, then the game shouldn't be taken seriously. That's why you had certain journalists calling Last of Us gaming Citizen Kane moment, when that's not really true. I love The Last of Us, it's a lot of fun, I've played through it multiple times, but gaming Citizen Kane moment, a moment in which, the medium reaches a peak or a height or a standard, it's not The Last of Us. For gaming to have a Citizen Kane moment, it would have to be something that advances the medium of gaming, which is very different from the movie, book, or other artistic mediums. You can't just lump them all up, and for a while there, games were kind of doing that. So while God of War and Last of Us are great, there definitely was a stigma surrounding them and other games that didn't adhere to the ways that they presented themselves. So when Devil May Cry 5 came out, everyone was really happy because here's a game that doesn't feel the need to do that. Here's a game that feels confident enough being a game. And while this is great, and while Devil May Cry 5 definitely knows how to have fun with scenes like this, it still manages to deliver cinematic scenes that are so well directed and framed and deliver such an engaging story through said cinematic techniques that I feel like it's criminal that no one really has taken the time to appreciate this. And while there's a lot of scenes within the game that I could go over or anyone else could go over and point out how these techniques are used, I want to use two scenes in particular. The scenes in which both Dante and Virgil find the strength and power that they are going to utilize throughout the entire game. Now, let me give a little bit of backstory. Dante and Virgil are both the sons of a deific demon lord named Sparta, who came to the human world and sealed off the demon world, all because he fell in love with a woman who ended up being Dante and Virgil's mother. When Dante and Virgil ended up being around 8 years old, the demon king Mundus came to Sparta's house for revenge, killed Dante and Virgil's parents. Dante was able to hide away and witness his mother's sacrifice as she distracted the demons while looking for her other son, giving Dante the time needed to escape. Virgil wasn't so lucky. Virgil only managed to survive because during the attack he was able to tap into his demonic power from his heritage and overcome the struggles himself through his power. So, Dante learned the power of compassion and sacrifice and love between two human beings, and Virgil learned that you're on your own. No one else is going to come and save you. Now, of course, as they grow up, they both exemplify these ideals, with Dante finding strength in his humanity throughout the games, and Virgil finding strength through his demonic power, but ultimately failing every time he comes up against Dante. With the whole meta-narrative of the story kind of being, nothing's more powerful than your own sense of humanity, your own sense of heart, what you're willing to sacrifice and push through and be strong for others. It's a nice little positive message there. But now where this ties back to Devil May Cry 5, we see Dante and Virgil both revisiting their old house that's burned down and decrepit. All that's left is a single picture of their family, with their father's face burnt out and everyone else looking faded. Dante and Virgil both come to this house at a moment of weakness after they've both been defeated. Dante having been defeated by Virgil's demon form, and Virgil having been defeated by Dante earlier on in Devil May Cry 1, and now crawling along as a withered husk of what he once was, struggling to even stay alive. Now, if we take a look at Dante's scene, when he's in there, he's looking up at this photo of his family, and he knows that if he doesn't find the strength to defeat this giant demon king that has arisen and is tearing apart the city and soon the world, no one else is going to be able to save all the people that are suffering. So in this moment where he needs to go and find his strength, he faces the photo of his family. He faces his past. He faces a literal object embodying his humanity and the lesson that he learned. And while he's looking at this photo of his family, he comes to the realization that he can absorb the weapons that he inherited to discover a power further from within. So Dante, through absorbing, through taking in, through accepting his heritage, accepting his family, accepting his path, finds a new kind of strength that allows him to go forth and fight the Demon King. Now let's take a look at Virgil's scene in comparison. He comes here, like Dante, withered and beaten, although he's in much rougher shape at this point. And he comes to the same house, the same room, and he looks up at that photo, that embodiment of the past. And Virgil's way of finding strength is turning away from that photo, turning away from his family, his humanity, his past, and using his demonic sword to separate, literally separate his humanity from his demon form. So the human side of Virgil is literally separated and personified, and there's tons of great scenes with him, but we're not going into that today. And all that's left is this giant demon that forms. And as this giant demon forms, we see Virgil's humanity on the floor, terrified in fear, as the shadow of this demon comes over the painting of the Sparta family. So when Dante finds his strength, it's through looking at his family. He finds his strength from his compassion, his humanity, his love for those close to him. When Virgil finds his strength, it's from turning his back on his past, on his humanity. And the way these scenes are framed, with them being in the exact position, but having the brother who accepts his past look forward at that literal embodiment, and the brother that denies his past and tries to avoid it, literally turning away from that painting as he finds his power. This parallel between the two, how it's the same thing happening but so different based on that core message that they both learned in that shared experience. The way this is communicated through this visual medium, utilizing these cinematic techniques of symbolic representation of an image with framing of where the brothers are standing in the same place, how one turns and the other faces the photo. All of this is a masterclass at cinematic storytelling. There is so much symbolism here for us to dissect. And this is what I feel Devil May Cry 5 doesn't get enough credit for. Moments like this, where the story is told not just through what is literally happening in front of us, but through the representations of what's in the image that we're seeing. And that's why these two scenes are the perfect examples of why Devil May Cry 5 is a masterclass in cinematic storytelling. I've been Pliskin, over and out.